Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of the Financial Dispensary with me, Dr. G. In last week's episode, we started with a very critical first step towards building your financial independence. If you missed that episode, pause this video and go back and first watch that episode. The description will be in the link below. In this week's episode, we're going to analyze the data from last week that you gathered from your budget and your balance sheet. So, you do not want to miss this episode. Let's get stuck in. So one of the first things that I want to jump into is your balance sheet. So just to recap, based on the data that you gathered last week, a balance sheet is effectively a list of all your assets and your liabilities. So these would things be like your properties, vehicles, business interest, pension interest, all the other paper assets and investments, and effectively just a summary of assets and also all your liabilities. So things like the debt, loans, etc. And the idea with regards to this personal balance sheet is getting to this net asset value or your net worth. How much are you worth? And how we calculate that is we add up all your assets and we deduct all the liabilities. So the reason why the balance sheet is such an important part is it gives us a very clear indication in terms of what your current financial position is. So for me to piggyback on Robert Kiyosaki, and he popularized this cash flow quadrant, the goal that we need to work towards financial independence is moving from the left quadrant to the right side of the quadrant. So let's just quickly zoom into that. So top left quadrant is when you are an employee. That's when the amount of active work that you do is equal to your remuneration or what you paid for. The vast majority of people fall into this top left quadrant. There's also a lot of people in the bottom left quadrant where you're just self-employed, so you don't have a boss, but you are the boss as well, but the only employee as well. And again, you have to allocate time towards generating income and getting paid. And the goal is to move from this left side quadrant to the right side quadrant where you become either a business owner, and when you're a business owner, you are in a position to effectively use other people's time to generate wealth and create income. And the main goal that we're all trying to work towards is this bottom right quadrant where you become an investor, where effectively you get to this magical place where you make money while you sleep. And that's where the money just grows, and that's where the power of the compound effect starts kicking in, and you earn money and interest on interest. So that's the guideline that we need to try and work towards. Hence why the data that we gathered in this balance sheet is so important. Because if you can see that the balance sheet, you don't have a lot of assets and you've got a lot of liabilities, we obviously can see where the shortcoming is and how to correct that. But the goal is definitely towards creating and building the numbers that we can add into this kind of asset column. And over time and in future episodes, we're going to delve deeper into all the different assets you can have. So property, we'll do a very nice deep dive with regards to property. When is property a good investment and when is it not such a good investment? Vehicles, obviously, remember, a vehicle is not really an asset. Business interests, so yes, how to structure your business to make sure that you can get as much benefit from that. And then all the paper assets, the pension interests, investments, and obviously also strategies in terms of how to pay off your debt quicker in a shorter amount of time. And here comes the catch: without having to pay more. Yes, there are simple tricks and practical examples. I'll give you how to get to that. So again, to summarize, the goal is to build out the assets, reduce the liabilities so that we can build your net wealth. And we're going to do that by helping you shift from the left-hand side to the right-hand side. So, okay, Dr. G, that's all fine and dandy, but how do I actually do this? Well, It all starts with the budget. Hence why that was the first part, your first homework, is doing your budget. And here comes the catch. For you to create wealth, to build assets, you need to do one thing and one thing only. You need to spend less money than what you earn. It is as simple as that. All you need to do is make sure that the money that comes in versus the money that goes out, that there's more money left. And that difference we're going to allocate towards investments, and that investments will grow your balance sheet, and you'll move from the left-hand quadrant to the bottom right quadrant. You'll become an investor and you'll start making money while you sleep. And all that you need to do is you need to create and structure your budget in such a way that the money that comes in is more than the money that goes out, and the difference between the two you'll allocate towards what we call kind of growth assets or investments, and you'll start generating wealth, and over a long period you'll build financial independence and wealth. So I'm going to give you 3 practical examples in terms of how to boost your budget and how to make sure that you get more money out of your budget so that you can allocate more money towards investments and effectively grow yourself into financial independence. So the first tip is going to be a bit of an ARB tip, but I promise you it is a very, very important and practical tip for you. And that tip is effectively just by doing your budget. So if you did your homework from last week and you actually sat down and you completed all the columns and all the numbers across this kind of template budget, I promise you immediately you'll see in terms of where the shortcomings are. By just sitting and getting understanding and getting to grips in terms of what your data is, how much money are you earning, where is the money going towards, that I promise you, you don't have to kind of read blogs and kind of get clever. By just looking at the numbers, immediately you'll see, but hang on, there's a potential opportunity. Hang on, there's a potential challenge. This is an area that I need to focus on. So the first tip, practical tip for you to boost your budget, just do the budget. I promise you there'll be a lot of insights that you gather that I don't even have to tell you. You'll pick it up on your own. The second very practical way in terms of boosting your budget is focusing more on the income side versus the expense side. So a lot of people are always, when you look at the budget and the numbers don't look that fantastic, they always say, you know what, I need to cut this and cut that expense. I need to cut this. And instead of having buying takeaway coffees, I need to make coffee at home, etc., and all of that. And those are practical ways of boosting your budget. But I don't think people put a sufficient kind of sufficient energy into creative ways of boosting their income. So I'm just going to quickly stop the screen share and jump to another one. It took me 5 minutes and I found the following on the internet. So if you are watching this podcast now online and you've got a stable and active kind of internet connection, there are loads of opportunities for you to increase your income. So I'll drop lists, all these websites, the description, the links in the description for you. But on this cool website, they listed 39 online jobs that you can do from home. So that's over and above your normal kind of salary, normal job that you currently do. It's flexible. You can do it when you want, when you have the flexibility, when you have the energy. But there's 39 online jobs that you can do now to generate an additional income. And remember, if you generate additional income, the chances of having surplus money to allocate towards investments is just much higher. So I'm just going to zoom into kind of a couple of these tasks. So number 4, this complete small micro tasks. In South Africa, obviously, we have a very popular Money for Jam. Some of you might be familiar with them. This is where you register and you complete micro tasks and you effectively get paid by doing that. So definitely check out Money for Jam. Another one that I picked up that works very well is this number 2, which is the virtual assistant. So the one that I quickly found here was this admin assist, where you can register yourself and make yourself available to become an assistant. Again, these are kind of flexible working opportunities. I know of a lot of people that the fact that we're in roughly the same time zone than in Europe, and because kind of the Europeans have euro, if you convert it back to rands, at a fraction of the cost that it would cost them to employ somebody on that side of the world, they can employ a South African. So there are loads and loads of opportunities with regard to these online flexible job and work opportunities that you can definitely piggyback on to generate an additional income. The third very clever and practical tip for you to boost your budget is, and I already actually gave you the example last week, is by tracking your discretionary spend. So this has been my Achilles heel for a number of years. So even if you do the budget, you'll see that there's going to be certain items that are fixed every month, but there's going to be a lot of items that the amount differs vastly. And my challenge was that even though I had a very rigid budget for the fixed kind of things, that discretionary spend, whether I spend it on a coffee, buying a birthday gift, going out for dinner, that amount differed vastly day to day, month to month, and it was very difficult. And inevitably what happened is I went over budget. So the tip that I utilize that works well, I don't have my phone here in front of me, but remember I mentioned Strides, the habit tracking app. I've been using Strides now for a number of years. If I recall, I think you can have 3 or 5 habits that you can track in Strides for free before it goes into the paid version. I highly recommend using any of those habit tracking apps. So all that I do is I have a daily budget. So in my discretionary spend, I've got X amount of money that I can spend per month on whatever. I take that, divide it by the amount of days in the month, and I get a daily amount that I can spend on. And for me personally, what I use predominantly most of the time now, I just tap my phone. So I've got my cards linked to my phone. So when I take up my phone and I make any purchase, I just jump onto Strides and I insert the amount of money that I spend. And Stride then keeps accurate track of how much money I spend. And if, as an example, in a specific day, I spend a lot more than what I'm allocated per day, all that it means is in future days, when I'm kind of stuck in that position that can I spend the money, yes or no, I just whip out my phone, check and see, you know what, I'm already over budget, or I still have a lot of budget left on that on a monthly basis, and it guides my habits and behaviors. It is very, very powerful. It works fantastically well. Just do it. So just jumping back to our budget sheet and Excel again. So let's summarize and bring it all together now. So the goal is the following. Let me just get that for you up and running again. I've given you 3 very practical examples in terms of how to boost your budget. Step 1 is just sit down and do the budget. Stop talking about it, just actually do it. By analyzing the budget, you'll immediately see in terms of where there's shortcomings. Second one, get creative about the income part. I promise you there is lots and lots of opportunities, especially in South Africa, in terms of how you can generate additional income that fits within your current lifestyle, whether you have a lot of time or not a lot of time, whether you have a lot of energy or not a lot of energy. There are opportunities for you to increase your income. Third tip, keep a very close eye on that discretionary spend. It's that's the one that's going to bite you. But by balancing the books and making sure that you have surplus money available, remember the next step, what we're going to do is we're going to shift that discretionary spend into investments. That's going to be next week's episode. Where should we put the money? We're going to shift that money into your investments, build your assets so that we can move from the left-hand quadrant to the right-hand quadrant where we effectively become an investor and start getting to a situation where you build wealth effectively in your sleep. And there you have it. Thank you for watching this week's episode of the Financial Dispensary with Dr. G. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be a pal, smash that like button, Share this episode with a family member or friend if you found it valuable. And again, if you like the content and the format in terms of what I'm trying to produce, ping that notification bell, subscribe to the channel so that you are notified when the next episode drops. I endeavor to, on a weekly basis, build out this kind of financial journey that we're going to that we are effectively walking a path with you. And please feel free to, if you have any questions, drop them in the comment section. I endeavor to get back to all of you if there's something specific that you're unsure about or if you need more clarity. In next week's episode, we're going to answer that question. So, okay, once you have that discretionary spend, not discretionary spend, surplus amount of money available, where should that money then go to? I'll answer that question for you in next week's episode. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.